The movies do it, TV does it. Why don't you do it? This is so huge. This idea, especially with like traditional media, of dramatizing your ideas. So like, if a thief comes in and he steals like all the paperwork in a paper store, or it's like some kind of news, some kind of event, and you want to convey something. There's this really good book. It's called Made to Stick, and it talks like the whole thing is about how to dramatize your idea. And they have this one example in it that is such a profound example. It's amazing. And it's this guy, right? He's working for the U.S. FDA and trying to figure out like what food is healthy for people, what food is not healthy for people. And what he discovers is that like a bag of movie popcorn at the time has like the same amount of fat and butter in it as like 15 steaks, like a huge sweet like potato dinner, like a ginormous like dinner feast. And all the fat in a bag of popcorn is the same as like this 4,000 calorie meal, which is like ridiculous, right? And so he figures this out, and he realizes that like how he tells the public the news about the saturated fat is super important, because like he can't just say it's got 500% of your daily fat, or it's got 500% of your whatever, right? Like percentage points, numbers. People don't connect to that. It's not dramatized. They don't understand what's being said. And so what he did is he figured out a way to physically represent the data that he was talking about. And it's such an important and like talented skill he has, and anyone can have, where you just turn what you're saying into a physical reality, into its physical equivalent. And it doesn't matter like how difficult it is. Like, you're presenting numbers, you're presenting your side of an argument, you're presenting maybe some statistics or like a plan, right? Like if you can like physically bring it into the world, it's so much more powerful. Like great example, right? Like when I ship like my book, right? Like I'm giving people a physical book. And that's so much more powerful than like, buy this ebook, right? Because that's not tangible, that's not real. It's not like actual quality education that they can see in their hands. And so it's the same thing with dramatizing your ideas. So this guy, what he did is he got like this whole collection, like this Thanksgiving feast, thanks dinners, potatoes, like he has a whole feast. It's like the size of this table. And he holds a press conference and a press meeting. And he's holding like a bag of popcorn, a teeny little tiny small bag of popcorn in his hand. And he's got this massive feast in front of him. And he shows everybody that like this little bag of popcorn has the same amount of fat and grease as these sizzling and bubbling over steaks and hamburgers and patties and just tons and tons of fatty meats all in front of him. Just ridiculous amount of like these physical, you can see it. This is the equivalent of the amount of fat that's in this little bag of popcorn. And that campaign and that statement, that discovery, had such a huge impact on the media and those around him, because he got the physical growth of it, the physical equivalent, and he dramatized his idea. So this is like a really good book on how to do that, and some of like the top implementation steps that you can take immediately to make your ideas stick. But like you really want to master this skill, because if you can dramatize your ideas, you can make them stick in people's minds much better, and make them take action on them significantly faster by influencing them to your way of thinking, by sort of like showing them your ideas, because they're so dramatic, right? This idea that like if I physically hand you 13 pounds of steak and I say this is how much butter's in a popcorn, you're probably going to think that like something needs to change, and that you need to move on and forth into a different realm, right? And so it's just such a powerful dimension that you can use, and you want to do that for like everything that you possibly can. Whenever you have a proposal or a new thing you're presenting to somebody, like figure out how can you turn it into a physical thing in front of you, and make it look like it's freaking like really, you want to exaggerate it to have the impact that you want on the other person. Awesome. Okay. So where the apple lies. This one's really, really fun. So I have some flashbacks in this episode, but a little bit more importantly is what happens in the present. So Apple Bloom, she's in the barn and she's organizing all of these crates of shipments that are going out to Filthy Rich and to other distributors and people that they sell things to. And they've got like shipments of apples and shipments of Snap Apple jam, right? So just this jam that they make. And what's cool is like, Apple Bloom is responsible for like labeling everything. And Applejack and Big Mac, they come in and they see the work she's done and they ask, hey, is everything labeled correctly? Does everything look awesome? And Apple Bloom, of course, says, yeah, you bet, it's the best ever. But she's not 100% certain, and she actually kind of doesn't really know. And so Applejack checks her work, and she realizes that she's put the apples in the jam crates, and she's put the jam in the apple crates. And so she just kind of like lied a little bit about what happened and wasn't transparent, right? She just did not tell the truth. And that's like a huge, huge, huge problem, right? Because honestly, it's so important. They need to be connected with each other and totally with one another. If they're going to run this farm well, right? If they're going to have the success they want in the marketplace. And so, to sort of show Apple Bloom this, Applejack tells her like a story about, when she was young, right? So when Applejack was young, she sort of was in like the same situation. And she was trying to, sell all these apples to Filthy Rich, right? And so she was younger, a little bit smaller, and Filthy Rich came and said, hey, you should let me buy all your apples, right? And she's like, okay, cool, sounds like a plan, man, let's get it going. And they're super excited about it, right? They have like a quality business relationship. So she makes this deal, like as this young little pony, or a person, whatever, as to sell these apples to him, right? So he's like, okay, cool, I'll put them in my store, and they'll get sold, right? So that was like her strategy and her tactic, right? And the problem is like Granny Smith, she doesn't know about this at the beginning, and she doesn't really want her to sell, the apples of the Zap Apple Jam to Filthy Rich because it's sort of like their special thing that they sell, right? And they keep the margins and the profits on it. Because everybody comes to them to buy. And so, she does this behind, her grandma's back, right? And makes this deal with her. Now, she's got a slight problem, right? Because, she doesn't really actually like control, all the inventory, all the goods in the farm, right? And so she has to get her grandma's permission so that she can fill on her side of the deal here and actually deliver what she promised this guy, but she promised Filthy Rich, even though she didn't necessarily have control over the resources. She wasn't like the one to make the decision about what to do. And now Big Mac comes in really, really early here and tells Applejack that she's got to tell the truth. And she was like super young at the time, she didn't know what she was doing. And like she has to tell the truth about what's going on, and like Granny says she doesn't want them to sell it. But what's the problem, and what they do, which is awful, is he says, no, you know what? I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to lie about it instead. And I'm going to dig a deeper hole, dig myself a deeper grave, right? I mean, it's just crazy, crazy, crazy. So she lies, and she says, like, Granny is sick, and then because Granny is sick, they can't go forward on the deal. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Granny's sick. That's awful. How about I go and see her in the hospital, right? And so that backfires, like, ridiculously quick. She says, okay, sounds like a plan, man. And so they go to the hospital, right? And he's trying to find Granny Smith just to say hi because he cares about her, and it's an important relationship for both of them, right? So Applejack has to get Granny to the hospital, and so that's kind of what she does. She says, hey, you need her for the hospital to give a demonstration on this disease, right? And so they have this disease where like people turn into trees, which is like super crazy and weird. And so she says, come on, you gotta go and show them how to operate on this. And then that's kind of something that Granny had done historically. And so she's lying to her now. She's lying and lying and lying to more and more and more people because she like, as her lies spreads and as it gets out of control, it takes more and more and more falsehood to do damage recovery and to control it, right? And to move on to that next, stage of the lie where it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And like what you need to do is immediately and wholeheartedly, admit wrongdoing. The instant that you realize that you made a decision that was not yours to make, like with this deal. She needs to admit the wrongdoing, because what she's doing now is she's going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this lie. And she's like, in the short term, right, it's easier for her because she doesn't have to actually take responsibility. But in the long term, it's going to crush her because it's going to be so much more impactful and so much worse for her when this lie gets figured out. Versus if she just did the responsible thing and took this short-term loss, short-term, destruction, and said, look, I was wrong, I lied. Like in the long term, that's worth so much more because it commands significantly greater amounts of respect from these business, from Filthy Rich and for their business and for the work that they're doing. It's much, much, much closer and tighter when she admits her wrongdoing, but she just freaking doesn't. The Filthy Rich comes and they're running through the hospital trying to find Granny Smith, and they go all over the place. And Applejack, Applejack hides Granny Smith in an office and then in a janitor closet, and then she brings her into a live operating room, and Big Mac's on a table, he's on a stretcher with a huge blanket over him, and she thinks that his arms are tree limbs, and so she's about to amputate his arms, go in with a huge saw and cut them off like a tree and just I don't know, man, cut his arms off and his legs. It's just bad stuff. And the instant this is all going down, this high point of contention, Applejack runs in, Filthy Rich runs in, and they freak out, and they all have no clue what's going on, or what's happening. And then Big Mac gets up off the stretcher and doesn't get cut in half, which is good. And they all realize that something's wrong here. And what's wrong is that Applejack, she told so many lies, they got everyone into this situation, and she has to explain her wrongdoing. She has to go through the process, mission, and apologize, fix it, and she just wasn't able to do it at the beginning. And so because of that, there was this huge mess. It could have been very, very, very simple here at the beginning, but that is not a possibility anymore. Now they're in a hospital. She has to admit a wrongdoing while they're in front of 50 people, about to cut someone's arm off and destroy this. It's just such a messy and a sticky and a bad situation, all because when she was really, really young, she told this lie, right? And it was sort of this epiphany that she had that honesty is so important and cause so much pain if you just don't tell the truth for her. And that was how she learned to do that. And even if she's wrong at first, she vows she must tell the truth. Top bullets. Oh, this one's awesome. Okay, cool. So Rainbow, she's a wonderful, right? So she's the coolest person ever now, and everyone loves her. And there are these two new cadets in the academy, right? And they're working to get through the trainings and just qualify for the Wonderbolts and try to get into the reserve, just like Rainbow, right? And you see where these guys are coming from, right? Is they sort of grew up with one another, right? So he was the youngest of a huge group, a huge family. And so because their parents had so many kids, he didn't really get a whole lot of attention. He was kind of CF. And then similarly, this girl, right? She was an only child, right? So she got way too much attention from her parents. Her parents cared way too much. She was freaked out and alienated. And so as they were kids, right, these two, they started to sort of gravitate towards one another, come into each other's lives, right? And they were super happy, right? It made them really happy. It was a great bond, great friendship, and they started to fly really well together, right? And so, well, what's the problem? So as it goes on and on, they get to this point with the Wonderbolts, right? Rainbow Dash, Twilight, they're watching these two, and they realize that Vapor Trail, who's the girl, is giving little boosts to Sky Stinger, who's the guy. And as they're flying, she's using her wings to kind of boost him into the air, so that he can perform better, fly higher, fly faster. And he's been doing this for like their whole life as they grew up. Because she just wanted to kind of boost him up and make him feel happy and give him a feeling of significance, feeling of importance, as somebody special and important. While she just kind of sat on the back, and because she was so used to all the attention, she just wanted to be part of a group, right, part of a movement, and have a friend that stuck with her. And so she was always like giving him a little wish and helping him out a little bit. And so because she is like constantly helping, and you see this so often, right, where people, they think that you're always helping, and you think that like the help is good, right? It's this idea of like cheating on tests or crap like that, and how like it's really just destroying you, right? Because they have to have like a solo evaluation for the Wonder Bolts. And so the instant that she's out of the equation, all of a sudden, Sky Stinger is like fundamentally crippled, because he is so used to this like air that he didn't even know he had before, that he just like everything in his flight pattern changes, and he's like ridiculously weak because he's not used to flying on his own. And so Rainbow Dash and Twilight, they discover this and they realize that these two are like really, really close and interweaved together, but they have to fly on their own, right? Especially if they're gonna like ever be Wonderbolts. Like there's no way that she can always be there to support him, right? So they come in private with Vapor Trail, and they say, hey, what's going on? We see that you're helping him all the time. And she's like, yeah, he's my friend, and it's always been like that. And they let her know that like she can't actually do that for the trials, or there's gonna be a huge problem. And so she realizes that like, crap, this guy is not very strong. She's always been supporting him, right? And so she realizes that like she has to come clean. She has to tell the truth. She has to let him know what's happening. And so, with the help of Rainbow and Twilight, he comes up, and they come together, and he says, hey, I've been helping you fly. And at first she's like, what? And then she says he gives him like boosts all the time. And see, like, as the episodes progress, he's been like this super cocky guy because he's always flying so well. And he realizes that so much of that was built up in this help that he was getting from her. And he just goes off. He goes insane. He's like, why would you do that? I can't believe it. You're trying to ruin me. Oh my God. When in reality, all she was trying to do was help, be friendly, and grow together. But he takes it the wrong way. This idea that like there's this filter you have on life, and for him this filter is negative. And instead of saying, how this is really, really nice and how she's awesome and how she was trying to help him and cared about him, he takes it the wrong way. And he says like that he, couldn't believe, because now he doesn't know about his training, and he doesn't know if he's been doing the right things to get ready. He doesn't know where his strength level is. He has no clue. And he's got to go do tons and tons and tons of workouts to get himself up to the point where he thought he was, just so that he can have a chance to get into the academy and succeed. And that's a really, really tough position to be in. Because now it's up to him, right, to do it on his own. He's always had this friendship, always had this relationship. And it was so important, and it helped him do so much more than he could ever do alone. But now, because of these solo trials, he has to do it alone. And so they do a good job, right? Like, it's not easy for her. It takes a lot. There's a lot of pain to reveal that like she was helping him, and she took a whole lot of crap from him afterwards. But in the long term, there's so much more gain, and it matters so much that she lets him know this now instead of later. And so she does the right thing, and she reveals early on that she was helping him and that he needs to actually do it on his own. And so it's a great, it's a tough decision to make, but it's the right one to make. And so because she makes the right decision, she's able to kind of overlook the past, right, overlook the history, and get over this. And at first, they drift apart for just a moment because, he's a little bit upset. But you gotta remember, like, even like bad fights aren't really gonna be strong enough to destroy a quality relationship, or quality connection, right? And so he goes and he trains and he works his butt off to try to get really swole and super excited and ready for this race. And then they come back together and they say, look, they're able to like step away from it and say, yeah, you know what, this is a bad situation, sorry, but let's move on, right? Because their bond is stronger than some dumb argument. So they keep going, they keep pushing together, and she supports him at the tryouts and the races, and he goes and flies super fast, and he makes it to the end, and he has the best time ever, and absolutely crushes the circumstances, right? He wins the tryouts, wins the race, and he overcomes his challenges because he knows what these challenges are. See, at the beginning, he didn't realize that he needed to really, really work on himself and on his flying. But because he had friends that helped him and let him know, this is what you need to overcome, he was able to leapfrog over and make it to the level of success that he desired by absolutely crushing it, which is awesome. And he became like one of those recognized flyers. He put the work in, put the effort in, and he made it happen by taking the dedication, putting in the time. Because to him, like, this is super, super important. And so he's willing to put in the time. He just needed to know that it had to happen. And as soon as he did, as soon as he was on the right path, bam, right? Starts to go and go and go and go and go and go. Because all you got to do is put in the work and make it freaking happen. That's exactly what he does. But even though it really, really hurt his relationship temporarily in the short term, in the long term, all it did was strengthen it, get closer and closer and closer, to have better and better support for one another, so that they can be the best they can be, even if they do have to overcome that short-term rough patch, which is cool. And that's how they do it. And he has a huge success because of it. They both do, and they do a great job, which is awesome. Awesome. Okay, so to where and back again. Oh, this one's so fun. Okay, so basically, Starlight and Trixie go on this big trip to like their old village, or Starlight's old village, and Trixie comes with her to support her, and they say, look, we're gonna go back to the village, and we're gonna greet everybody, and we're gonna say hi to them all, and they're all gonna love us, and we're gonna get back together and be friends. So they've got like all their people in the village, and here's like Ponyville, right? And so they go on this huge trip over to their village, and they get to the village, and they're kind of in like Trixie's wagon, and long story short, what happens is they kind of like get chicken at the last minute, and they back out, and they say, oh, I don't want to see them, I'm not ready for this, and she hesitates and runs away, which is a little bit sad, but she's trying and she's doing her best. And so that's just kind of the storyline here at the beginning. So she comes back home, and as she comes back home, something's not right. So she gets to Ponyville, right? And for some reason, like, she tells all of her friends like that the trip went poorly and that everything's a ray and a miss. And all of her friends are like, oh good, they don't need you anyway. And they say like all these really like mean and just uncharacteristic things about each other. It's very negative, right? And so she's like, what's going on? That's not right. Why are these guys acting this way, right? And she's super, super confused. And so she follows them around a little bit until they get to the castle. And in the castle, they were just her friends earlier, but they morph into changelings. And what she realizes with Trixie by her side is that while they were gone, like basically changelings replaced every single person in the town. And they have like no clue what to do because like all of their friends are gone and they've been taken over, which is awful. And so like the main six, like everyone is trapped and gone, and they've been replaced by changelings. So it was like this huge invasion apparently while they were gone, and now like they're the only people they know who like aren't changed. They find Discord, they find Thorax, and these are like the only people that they know who are like safe, right? And Thorax, he tells them that they've got to go to the hive, the changeling hive, and at the changeling hive, they can like save everybody because that's where everybody will be. They're all going to be trapped there. And so Discord comes along and they say, okay, well, let's go on this journey. And so they go over to the changeling hive, and it's just these four, and like their sole job at this point forward is to like basically save the world, because like for all they can tell, like everybody they know has been trapped and turned into a changeling, right, and replaced. And so like they've got to like save everyone, because they're just gonna stay as changelings, and just suck. Because basically like what happens is that everybody that gets replaced, they come in here and they have like this, they have this room, right, and they'll trap everybody in here. And then they'll just like suck out their life and their energy, like for the rest of their lives basically, as they're trapped in these like little cocoon things. And so that's really a bad situation. And so because of that, they have to go and they have to save everybody, they have to defeat the Queen Chrysalis, free everyone, and then get rid of all the changelings, because they've like taken over their world, right? Which is really bad. And so just go on this journey, and they sort of realize that like it's up to them, right? And they take action, which is so important, but they also just like take responsibility, and they go like super hard into it. They don't make any excuses. They don't like have any reasons that they, you know, can't do it. Like they overcome like this initial pain of like, wow, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to save the world. That's kind of difficult. And because they're able to go through this pain, all of a sudden they have massive growth potential. And we'll see sort of how they develop, how they expand over time, but it's just so crazy what they go through just to like have this movement, to let this happen. So yeah, they get here and they're sitting on like the outskirts of the castle, the outskirts of the huge mountain. And what's weird is like it's super barren like around the mountain. And apparently like there's this spell in the Changeling Empire that Chrysalis has, and it makes it so that basically like nobody except for changelings and except for Chrysalis can use magic in this huge area around the mountain, right? So like their magic is totally useless, both Trixies and Starlights, and also Discords, right? So none of them can use like any of the powers, and they have to go like on foot towards the hive and figure out like what they can do without magic, without powers, to infiltrate it and to defeat, you know, Chrysalis, and really, you know, bring down like literally an entire empire like single-handedly, which is a very big ask. And it's not like the easiest thing ever. So they have to like get a new strategy, a new method, and a new attack that like will work, not just for like them, but like for the whole world, right? Because everyone here is just helpless, right? They can't escape these little cocoons. Their only chance is for Starlight to come help them. Because for some dumb luck reason, she decided to make her one trip outside of Ponyville the exact same time when this invasion happened. And like so often, you know, there's like this focus on, you know, being in the right place at the right time, or doing the right thing at the right time. And like in all reality, it just comes down a lot to like ground zero luck. And that's exactly what she has and what her friends have, and sort of what they go through is this idea that like they are a team, and they're a team that comes together and pushes through in a time of hardships and challenges, like solely because like they were the lucky ones who didn't get abducted. And because of that, like they must stand up, and they must be the ones who can fundamentally save like everyone and change everything for, you know, themselves, and kind of more importantly, like everyone around them, because nobody else expects this connection, and nobody else expects them to actually have like this team of heroes. But they have to go hard as a group, or else like literally everything they have will fly away. And it's just it's crazy stuff, because the only real warning they have is like Luna in a dream, and like that's it. And like they're on their own, because everyone's pretty much been caught, and all their friends are replaced with changelings, which is just crazy and berserk. And so they have to keep going. They have to keep pushing. They have to go through like the most pain that they've ever had in their life, because to them, like this is their challenge. This is their moment to shine and to succeed and to have massive impact. And so let's see what happens in part 2. Yay, okay, cool. So they get here, all right, and they start their journey, and you know, they realize, okay, well, we've got to save everybody's life, so let's just freaking do it. And so they just freaking do it, which is awesome. they get going on the path that matters, and they break inside here, and they make like a code that they can tell each other, so if they like get replaced by a changeling, the changeling won't know the little secret code. And then they traverse into the hive, and they really need help with Thorax, because like Thorax is the only one who can navigate the hive, because like all the doorways and the gateways, they're constantly like opening and closing, and the hive is always changing, right? It's just like a changeling, it's always changing. And so because it's always changing, they have to like go through this really difficult map. And there's also like always a bunch of security guards all over the place, and they've got like massive amounts of changelings just like patrolling the hive, right? Because you want to make sure that everybody stays safe, and that no one intrudes and destroys everything and frees everybody, which is what they're trying to do right now. And so as they go through this, they go and then try to like pass all the guards and go through the gates and figure out how to get to the throne room and save everybody. And what happens is really interesting. Like they get to an impasse where there's like 2 guards at the top of this hill, and there's this door that they have to go through. They have to break through this door, and they need to get to the other side. And they need to move forward because Thorax, he knows the hive, and he says that that's the way to go. And so to sort of like distract these changelings, what's really cool is like Discord, he makes himself as a sacrifice for the greater good of the group. And he says that he will get out there and he will, Trixie says she'll make a sacrifice for the greater good of the group. And so she'll go up here and she does a whole bunch of magic tricks and shows and like makes a huge ruckus and a huge deal to get their attention, right? And to get them to get away from what they were doing in their post, so that Trixie or Starlight and Discord and Thorax can sneak in to the back, right? And they can sneak in through this entrance. And so like she literally like sacrifices herself for the greater good of the group, because she knows that while she might have to take on temporary pain and she might have to get like trapped and captured, for everybody else, they're going to have so much more growth potential. They're going to be able to make to the next leg of their journey because of her sacrifice. And so she does the very, very, very noble thing. And she like launches a bunch of fireworks in front of everybody to get all of their attention, while her friends sneak in behind them and start to make it into the hive and closer and closer and closer to the throne. And then what's really cool is after that scene, right? They're inside and they're going through like tunnels. And they're on this upward trajectory that Trixie is enabled for them by sacrificing herself, which was so noble. They have to go down like this hallway, right? And as they go, what they realize is like there's some changelings that are sort of like following them, right? And so because of that, one of them like disguises themselves as Trixie and pretends that like she's Trixie and she got past these guards and she's coming to follow them. And they use like their secret code word that they made, to see if like it's actually Trixie. And of course, the changeling doesn't know the secret code word, and so they know that like, hey, this is a trap, and she's a changeling. And so they get to a fork in the road, and Thorax knows that they need to go this way, right? But the changeling that decides it's Trixie says, hey guys, come this way, which is obviously like come into this trap, right? And Discord makes a decision, and he says he will sacrifice himself for the greater good of the group and for the success of this overall mission. And he follows, he says, okay, sure, you bet. And he follows the changeling into this big, distracting room, into this path, and goes and sacrifices himself so that Starlight and Thorax can make it this way, and then they get to the throne room, and this is their path to the throne room, right? And Discord goes in this room and is being tortured, and there's like, what they do is they have like hundreds and hundreds of changelings, and they all disguise themselves as like Fluttershy, and then pretend to be like the real Fluttershy, and they're dying, and they're hurting, and they just like torture him psychologically. It's just a really messed up situation, where they're like pushing his buttons and pushing his weaknesses and pushing, what hurts. And for him, like what hurts is this idea of like his only like really close friend being hurt. And so they like mess with him here for the whole time, and then capture him and you know, put him in a big cocoon thing, while Starlight and Thorax actually go to the throne room. And this is where, you know, they find Queen Chrysalis, right? And they're at the top of the game, end of this road, and they have to go and have this huge battle. And they need to do it smart, right? Because Chrysalis has like tons and tons of changelings, like all over the place, willing to help her at the drop of a hat. And so it's up to Thorax and Starlight to really like save the world here, and they've got to win this battle. And so what happens is Thorax, he disguises as Starlight, right? And then they goes in like pretending to be her and says that you're gonna have like this huge battle and this huge fight, and you know, challenges her. Says, and so like, you know, Chrysalis is like, how dare you challenge me? I'm the best. You can't beat me. And so they have like this huge battle, sort of just like running back and forth and going through this thing over and over again. And Thorax, like, he gets caught like after about 5 minutes of fighting, pretending to be Starlight, and like just flying around, shooting lasers and running away from Queen Chrysalis. You know, he gets stuck in place, and Chrysalis, you know, approaches her, disguised as Starlight, looks at her in the eyes and realizes that he's the changeling and that he's Thorax and that he's, you know, the one who's betrayed everyone around him. And then you see Starlight, and she's actually on like this huge mountain behind her, and she's climbing up to steal like the core energy stone that like fuels the entire hive. And as she's right about to like break open it and grab it, like Queen Chrysalis like grabs her and slams her into the ground next to Thorax, and just like they both are like right there in front of her, right about to just be, you know, crushed. And Chrysalis, she tries to suck all their energy, right? She tries to suck all the love from them. And this is when like everything changes, right? So she's trying to suck all of the love and energy from Thorax, and it's this idea that like, you know, they suck it from other, and then something like really interesting happens, and it's absolutely game changing, and it changes like everything from this point forward, for like the rest of the season, the series, like everything changes.
What if you didn't have to?
Ridiculous! The hunger of changelings can never be satisfied.
Exactly! Thorax left the hive and made a friend. He shared love, and now he doesn't need to feed. You don't have to live your lives starving all the time.
You know nothing of the changelings or what it takes to be their queen. I decide what is best for my subjects, not some mewling grub.
I know what it's like to lead by fear and intimidation, and I know what it's like to want every pony to do what you say. But I was wrong. A real leader doesn't force her subjects to deny who they are. She celebrates what makes them unique and listens when one of them finds a better way.
The only thing Thorax has found is what happens to those who turn their back on the hive!
No! Stop!
Just as soon as I drain every last ounce of love from him and show my subjects what a real leader is.
I can feel the love inside me slipping away. I can't hold on to it much longer.
Then don't! Sharing love is what made you different to begin with. You should share yours with Chrysalis! Give her all of it! This is what happens when you give love freely instead of taking it!
finally realize that there's a better way than this forced tyranny, and that by coming together as a group, and by building in this new opportunity, this whole new world, where they are collected and concealed, and like everyone is giving love and giving happiness, all of a sudden they have so much more impact and so much more power as a group and as new species than they ever had previously, they ever could even dream of under Chrysalis, as they were using force and hatred and negativity to rule. By moving into this positive light, moving into this positive growth, you see literally the entire species metamorphosize, and they just totally change. And it just changes them for the rest of the entire show. And they become like this happy, quality, like these are good people now, instead of being ruled under a terrible leader. And it all stems from a change in leadership, right? From a negative, evil leader to a positive, happy, and good leader. And it just takes that one simple change, and every single changeling from that point forward is fundamentally a completely different person and a good contributor to society. And you'll see like the whole society starts to come together, and they are just so powerful for the rest of the show. They all become part of the world, right? And they start to contribute well. They start to contribute to society and do great things. And we'll start to see that over time as they start to really connect with the ponies in reality, which is awesome, right? So to kind of finish up this season, there's no beautiful musical, unfortunately, but there is one really important concept that we should definitely get through, and it's this idea that when nothing else works, try this. And it's exactly what she does, and it's so powerful, and it's this idea of introducing a challenge. And even if it's just something small or something trivial, like, I challenge you to see what could happen. I challenge you to see what works. You want to make someone, trigger their competitiveness. And so, like with Starlight, she's challenging all the changelings to see like this new viewpoint, this new worldview, this new opportunity they can have to be truly themselves and happy and grow and succeed. And so, like this challenge fundamentally changes everything for them, because it brings them into a whole new light, a whole new world, where they're able to have huge success. And it's the same thing like in the workplace, right? Like if you make a game out of something that you need to get done, like, who can sweep the most, dirt away, or who can make the most sandwiches, like have like a challenge. Like it changes everything, right? Probably the strongest example of this, and then I think we'll kind of finish it up, because this is so huge. Rockefeller, he was trying to figure out how to make his factories more productive. And so what he did is he would write the number of, vats of steel that they made, or the number of heats they made. And so he, like for the morning shift, he wrote like 6 on the ground in big chalk. And he didn't like have management yell at anybody. He didn't tell them to do better. He didn't like force them to do anything. He just wrote the number 6. And then he had the night shift come in, and the night shift saw that and they explained what it was. And then they crossed it out. They wrote an 8 because they did 8. And so the next day the morning shift comes in and they say, oh, they're better than us. And so they had an internal motivation, an internal drive to win this challenge, to do better than others. And then they get to a 10. And then the same thing happens with the night shift. They get to 11. So they turn like the lowest performing factory in the entire portfolio of factories into the highest performing factory in a matter of months, by simply using this simple challenge technique and this trick of like introducing competitiveness into the workplace with very simple internal drives, because people want to win, right? And so when people want to win, if you can give them a way to win, they will naturally go towards it, even if they don't actually win anything. It's just ego. They will win like an internal feeling of significance, and that is so powerful. And so you want to try to leverage that any way that you can, professionally, personally, or with friendships. It's the idea that like just have some sort of friendly challenge that makes them want to perform better, that makes them want to do more, makes them want to be more, makes them want to succeed, and that internal drive will push them so much further than any kind of like pay raise or other external stimulus could ever even hope to, because the challenge is all that. And the most powerful person that can make you want to do more than anything else like on the planet is yourself. And as soon as you connect and you have the impact you desire, everything changes, because the foundation, it's all you. And what you want to do is you want to enable other people, so that it's also all Yeah, sound cool? Sound awesome? You guys get it? It's pumping it. That's so cool. That's really powerful stuff. So it's super late. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have the best time ever. Hope you guys have been crushing it, loving it. And I'll see you in the next one so you can learn and win friends, influence people. Freaking coolest book ever. Make sure you guys grab a copy of this because it is so crazy. It's insane. This one's super messed up and messy, apparently, but it's just ridiculous. It's so great. So I'm super excited about it, and I cannot wait to get into the last day tomorrow, which is going to be super fun. So I will see you then. Woohoo! Thanks guys so much. Have an awesome time. See you then. Thanks. Bye.